everyone. I'm welcoming you to the next podcast from Climate Cadets Collective, the CCube, a United Nations Academic Impact Project in the Millennium Fellowship. And today, we are here recording our next podcast in the Norwegian Embassy. And that means that it is in collaboration with the Norwegian Embassy. And today, we have these two people with us, Philippa and Andreas.
Good morning, everyone, as well. I'm Pavni, founding member at Climate Cadets Collective and the editor-in-chief. And it's a privilege to be here today to moderate this dialogue with Vaishnavi. Today's session focuses on the ocean dialogue between India and Norway, which is an initiative that arose through a memorandum of understanding signed by the governments of India and Norway. This MOU represents a commitment to regular interactions and collaboration in key areas of shared interests such as sustainable shipping, fisheries and aquaculture, ocean emerging technology, and combating marine plastic pollution, amongst others. We are honored to have with us Mr. Andreas, Councillor for Climate and Environment at the Embassy of Norway, and Ms. Philippa, Embassy Secretary Oceans. Thank you both for taking out the time to join us today. We are all eager to gain insights from your expertise and perspective. Now, without any further ado, let's just dive straight in. Now, if I could, I would like to start with the very first question to Ms. Philippa. Can you give us a very quick introduction as to how the ocean dialogue started between Norway and India?
Most certainly, and thank you so much for that kind introduction and for giving us this opportunity to speak about the Norway-India Ocean Dialogue. So to take us all the way back to the beginning, I would actually say that you could say the foundation of the Ocean Dialogue was prompted by our shared geography. And by that I mean that Norway and India are both coastal nations covering almost an equal area of ocean space. In fact, both India and Norway's exclusive economic zones spans across 2.3 million square kilometers. So that gives us a lot of room to collaborate and to learn from each other in the ocean space. The very first institutional collaboration started already back in the 50s with the Norway-India Fisheries Project in Kerala. And also for the decades that followed, we were collaborating on mapping fisheries resources in the Indian Ocean through a program called the Ecosystems Approach to Fisheries, the NANSEN program. And it's actually turning 50 next year, so we're very, very happy about that, and we'll celebrate next year in 2025. But it was, as you mentioned, in 2019 that the Memorandum of Understanding between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Solberg really elevated the bilateral cooperation on oceans to a topmost priority for both countries. And this MOU was signed to establish the formal dialogue and also to establish the steering organ of this dialogue, which is the Joint Task Force on Blue Economy for Sustainable Development. The task force has been focusing so far on combating marine pollution, setting up structures and frameworks for integrated ocean management, boosting green shipping, and strengthening ocean research in critical areas to both our countries. So it is overseeing a range of different projects, initiatives, joint working groups, and all of these contribute to the development of the blue economy in a sustainable manner. I think the unique aspect of this blue economy task force and ocean dialogue is that it enjoys the utmost priority for both countries and that it brings together a range of different ministries, departments, research agencies, private companies in both Norway and India in a very unique collaboration. So that's a little bit about where we're coming from, and we're looking forward to diving into the specifics of the initiatives and projects.
Thank you for so coherently explaining us about the ocean dialogue and also the scope of the project.
Let me go to the next question to Mr. Andreas. So I would really like if you can just brief a little about how this marine litter is a global problem. So can you please elaborate on specific initiatives within the Norwegian Indian collaboration aimed at combating marine and plastic pollution? Also let us know what successful strategies have been implemented so far.
Certainly, and also from my side, thank you very much for having us. So I'd like to start with a little bit of background on marine litter for the first part of that question. So it originates from many different activities and sources, but most of them are land-based. And the largest source of marine litter is plastic pollution. And the properties of plastic means that it breaks down more slowly than any other material like cardboard or wood or metal. So with these characteristics, it's a very big problem when that pollution goes astray. So according to the UN Environment Programme, over 280 million tons of plastic are produced globally each year. And 8 million tons of these end up in the ocean. So this corresponds to 15 tons of plastic per minute. So depending on how long we record this, but more than 500 new tons of plastic we can estimate have ended up in the ocean while we're talking. And so more than half of this ends up in the sea, coming from a small set of countries in South and Southeast Asia, including India. So that is why it's important to address this problem in these countries, also India. So in 2017 at the UN Environmental Third Assembly, the world agreed on a zero vision for plastic waste. And the next year, the Norwegian government launched a new aid program against marine litter and microplastics. And so helping to follow this vision and to help achieving the UN Sustainability Goal 14.1, which is prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, in particular from land-based activities, including marine debris and nutrient pollution. That is the objective of this program for the Norwegian government. And so far, we have spent more than 1.6 billion Norwegian kroner from then up to now, and we are continuing. So its aim is to prevent and greatly reduce the extent of marine litter in all of the countries we are working with. And to that extent, we have 4 sub-goals. It's waste management of plastic waste will be improved. Selected coastal zones and rivers will be cleared of waste and properly handled. And businesses' own efforts for sustainable production and consumption will be strengthened. And global commitments will be followed up through national and regional collaborations and measures. So at the outset, we started with a lot of different organizations, multilaterals, NGOs, research organizations, and local organizations in all of these countries. And so most of these collaborate further with authorities, with local communities, etc. So we are trying to have a big outreach and to sort of touch on all levels of involvement with this problem. But it's focusing on the fast-growing countries in Asia, because this is where the problem with marine litter is the most serious right now. And then the story starts with India. Because as we have heard, the bilateral agreement between Norway and India on oceans started the same year, and the India and Norway Marine Pollution Initiative, or the INMPI, started that very same year as one of the key activities within this. So a letter of intent was signed between the Indian Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so if you can summarize what it aims to do in technical terms, it aims to focus on innovative, catalytic and strategic collaborations to reduce marine litter. And it's meant to align with the Indian Prime Minister's plan of phasing out single-use plastics, which has been followed up. And the Indian government's action plan for the Clean Seas campaign, and other major missions such as the Swachh Bharat mission and the Clean Ganga mission. So today, or since then, we have 5 active projects in India, which are as follows. There's a program implemented or project implemented by UNEP, which deals with coordinating, providing a common platform for all these activities, and which works closely with both the ministries and regional and local authorities. And of course, it's supported by UNEP in Nairobi. So it touches, has sort of the global flow of increased knowledge and new and increased commitments from around the world. They all stay informed of that. So we have a program on ocean plastics turned into an opportunity in circular economy, which actually deals with plastic waste being turned into a business opportunity, especially in energy demanding and heavy industries such as cement or manufacturing. And then we have a cooperation on capacity building for reducing plastic and chemical pollution, which is implemented by the Norwegian Institute of Water Research with Indian partners. And the Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi has a project called Mainstreaming Circular Economy in the Waste Management Sector in India. And then finally, we are supporting the Marine Litter and Mindset Change in Mumbai, which is the Office Shah Foundation project, screening, etc. So, as you are aware, India has very ambitious targets to reduce plastic pollution and has taken impressive measures to improve its waste management. And a major share of Norwegian funding to combat marine litter is allocated to contribute to exactly these ambitions. And so the rapid economic growth and urbanization in India has led to an increase of waste problems, as we are aware, in terms of plastic, especially packaging. And so the current or pre-existing waste management systems have a hard time dealing with the increased amount of waste. And so much of that finds its way into rivers and the marine ecosystems at the end of its travels. So I can say something, I can give you examples from 3 of the projects on how specifically it is working in the Indian setting. So first of all, the Center for Science and Environment and the Waste Management Project, they have supported 37 cities in 3 northeastern states of India, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and Nagaland, to develop and implement bylaws for source segregation of waste, having door-to-door collection tariffs, and enforcing penalties for non-compliance. So the project has mainstreamed these circular economy principles in alignment with national policies and policy guidance for local authorities. Secondly, the capacity building project addresses the sort of intellect challenges between marine litter and microplastics and persistent organic pollutants, and of course, all measuring and developing a scientific knowledge base for all of this. And they have built capacity to monitor and manage and reduce it in Gujarat state and are now working in Telangana. So doing that, they have produced knowledge on it and strengthened monitoring capacity with local research institutions and central and state authorities through targeted training events, stakeholder engagement, awareness raising, and producing reports. And finally, the Afroz Shah is a leading environmentalist, basically known around the world, and activist and lawyer from Mumbai. So what he's organized in Mumbai is now becoming the world's biggest and largest beach cleanup, and it's grown into a movement inspiring people in many countries. So through his foundation, many community-driven projects are running in Mumbai to tackle the so-called last mile problem, in which food and other products are packaged in single-use plastics and multi-layer plastic unnecessarily, and creating large amounts of problematic plastic waste. So a few of these initiatives, one example includes the Family Freedom Project, which is a campaign to educate local population on menstrual waste and distribute reusable menstrual cups. Another is the Vegetable Power Project, which to which they sell vegetables and fruits without plastic packaging, and educating the communities about it. They've also set plastic-free shops and sell commodities like masalas without plastic packaging. And so it reaches thousands of people, and it increases every year. So it's very impressive. So the key lessons from our collaboration with India is that combating marine litter begins on land with long-term and very important participatory approaches to policies and plans. And local awareness, enthusiasm, and commitment are key because we see that working in all these projects. So any commitment must be based on national and local policies, though. So we need to address all levels, and we need to have sustainable financing solutions.
It is very interesting to know about marine litter pollution and also the collaboration between India and Norway to tackle the same. Now, drawing on the same, how does integrated ocean management play a role in the partnership between Norway and India? Also, what frameworks are being used to ensure that sustainable practices are being carried out in ocean resource management?
Thank you for the question. So indeed, integrated ocean management is a core pillar of the ocean dialogue, and it's also historically rooted because integrated ocean management has been a crucial focus for Norway in developing our shoreline through decades. Because since Norway first saw a major offshore oil discovery on the Norwegian continental shelf, that was in 1969, the oil and gas sector has since become Norway's largest sector, measured in terms of government revenues, investments, and export value. But we soon realized that the offshore petroleum activities could come to adversely affect the areas that were also used by fisheries and living marine resources. So that's why Norway started working with marine spatial plans in 2003 to reconcile these industries and integrate its major ocean economy activities together with nature conservation. So marine spatial planning, or MSP, is a public process of analyzing and allocating the spatial and temporal distribution of human activities in marine areas to achieve ecological, economic, and social objectives that are usually specified through a political process. So it will depend from country to country, of course. And for Norway, these plans have proven key to ensure sustainable development of our blue economy and all the various activities that took place along our coasts. So it includes offshore oil and gas, of course, fisheries, tourism, and increasingly in the later years also offshore renewable energy installations. So based on this Norwegian experience, we started a dedicated initiative connected to integrated ocean management, also rooted in the MOU from 2019, in which the first project in India focused on marine spatial plans for Puducherry and Lakshadweep Islands. So the idea was to develop marine spatial plans as a pilot that could be scaled to other states and eventually emerge as a national policy also there. In this project, the main project partners that we're working with is the National Center for Coastal Research that are based out of Chennai, and the Norwegian Environment Agency, the Institute of Marine Research, and also the the Norwegian Institute of Water Research in Oslo. So in terms of the frameworks and models that you were asking about, they have developed a specific database called the Sahab database. So it's actually amalgamation of the Hindi word saga and the Norwegian word hav, which both means oceans in the respective languages. So a big focus in this work has been also on the stakeholders engagement and getting local communities, local government, and ocean researchers to work together in developing these spatial plans. And so far, the pilot in Puducherry is being implemented, and the marine spatial plans have been used in 5 concrete projects, so 5 new industrial projects by the local government. So that's very encouraging, and we're hoping to see also other states along the Indian coast adopt this marine spatial planning approach in their decision-making processes too. And in addition to marine spatial planning, we also have a second pillar of our initiative, which focuses on ecosystem services and accounting. So ecosystems accounting is a statistical framework that measures the value of ecosystems and the services that they provide to society. So it's actually a relatively new field in which Norway and India, in a sense, are jointly contributing to developing the field as a whole. The ecosystems accounting can help decision makers by providing monetary estimates that can be compared to other goods and services. So how do you monetize or put a value on clean air, clean and filtered water, disaster risk reduction by mangrove forest, and so on. And these estimates can then be used in turn for economic policy planning, cost-benefit analysis, and raising awareness of the importance of nature as a whole. The ongoing project that we have on ecosystem services and accounting is also in collaboration with the NCCR in Chennai and the Norwegian Institute of Water Research, and it focuses in particular on a pilot project on the ecosystem services provided by the Koringa mangrove forests in Andhra Pradesh, on the eastern coast. So the project is also working on implementing another framework, the System of Environmental Economic Accounting, the SEEA, which is used by the United Nations as a guide of integrating economic, environmental, and social data into a single coherent framework for holistic decision making. So in a sense, you can say that both of these 2 projects are having the overarching goal of providing decision makers with the right data to make the right decisions for sustainable use of the oceans in total. And of course, that will be different in different parts of the world, but they're all contributing to the same goal.
Thanks so much for that.
Thank you so much, Philippa. That was really insightful. So on this, basically, I would like to ask you, Sanders, that what are some of the key research projects that have emerged from the collaboration that we have been talking about? So how do these projects address the unique challenges faced by both these nations, both these countries, Norway and India, regarding the ocean health as well?
Yes, certainly. So we have examples from several of our projects. For instance, the so-called Innopol projects on water by the Norwegian Institute of Water Research. Based on the partnership between them and the Indian research partners, they have contributed to science-based solutions for dealing with environmental toxins and plastic waste. The first phase of the project, which ran from 2019 to 2022, focused on coherent systems for data collection and analysis. And what they did was that they developed river monitoring capacity for plastic pollution and other pollutants such as POPs in specific project areas in Bapi and Surat in Gujarat. So the project also contributed data on waste management and identified new sources or several sources of plastic and waste pollution. And what that resulted in was creating a solid knowledge base for good policy. So now the second phase of the project is trying to take that approach to Tamil Nadu, where they're working with a multidisciplinary, cross-sectoral and integrated approach to collect data and develop a baseline, develop monitoring and data collection capacity, which supports the implementation of the policies of the local authorities. So they have published also several reports, in varying quite a lot in focus. One is focusing on how the new globally legally binding treaty can help authorities combat plastic waste. One is about the socioeconomic and environmental complexities which accompany the plastic bans that have been implemented in India. And one is about measuring riverine macroplastics, which is a separate or sub-issue in this regard. We'd also like to mention the CSE project on mainstreaming circular economy. Because, well, I think in 2023, only a total of 12 reports and 135 articles have been published and released by the program, such as report on the plastic life cycle, toolkits for legacy waste management, inorganic waste management, biodegradable waste management, domestic hazardous waste management, sanitary waste, everything under the sun. And not forgetting that the e-versions of these were downloaded 20,000 times from their website. So I think they're having an impact and they're having an audience. So the main point, of course, of this supporting this research activities for us is that it should enable decision makers, stakeholders, and communities to be able to work from the best available and up-to-date knowledge and with up-to-date methods. And that's key for efficient pollution and waste management. And also because we know that the scientific capabilities of research environments, both in Norway and India, is very high. So we feel that letting them come together to work together on solutions will bear fruit in the next event.
Surely that too.
So we have talked about the impact this project has had across the country, and also the interest it is gaining amongst people as well. How do you think then the blue economy is being promoted through this collaboration? And drawing from that, can you share some success stories of sustainable economic development related to ocean resources?
Well, certainly, and I think just coming back to the structure of the task force on the blue economy as a mechanism, it actually spans across a wide set of sectors and engages both the private sector and public sector in the maritime and marine domains. So in addition to working on combating marine pollution and integrating the ocean management processes, as we've been touching upon, the Ocean Dialogue also then actively supports the private sector players in India and Norway to boost the blue economy in both our countries. So as an example, we are currently working closely in the joint working group Maritime, which is headed by the Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways in India, and the Ministry of Trade, Industries and Fisheries on the Norwegian side. So in this working group, our core focus is boosting sectors like green shipping, decarbonizing maritime industries, shipbuilding, ship recycling, adapting new and alternate fuels, and ensuring that the whole maritime sector is headed for a sustainable future. So we're building strong industry relationships in this working group to make new shipping segments like ferries, aquaculture vessels, offshore vessels, to make sure that they're electric and non-pollutant. And one such example of a success story is that Norwegian ship owners are currently placing orders at at Indian shipyards to build state-of-the-art, zero-emission and autonomous ships, for example, at the Cochin shipyard. And they are delivered and operating in Norwegian waters. On the other hand, Norwegian companies are delivering some of those core industrial components to those shipyards, which contributes to them being able to scale up capacity for shipbuilding, for ship recycling, and adapting new fuels for these various vessels. So I believe that this is an example of the excellent collaboration that goes both ways. We have a similar joint working group in the marine sector, so focusing on fisheries and aquaculture. And yeah, basically it's a similar structure in that sector also, which is headed by the Department of Fisheries on the Indian side, and also the Ministry of Trade, Industries and Fisheries in Norway. So I think these are some concrete examples of how the Ocean Dialogue also contributes to boosting the blue economy by bringing together government agencies, researchers, and the private sector in a very unique collaboration, I would say.
Thank you so much.
So it seems like we're engaging with people, and definitely when it's coming to climate, it's nothing can be done without their collaboration. So on this, basically, I have this question to Mr. Andreas: that how are these local communities being involved in these efforts to combat marine pollution and promote sustainable ocean management in India, basically? And what do you think, according to you, like what lessons can Norway and India learn from each other's approaches to community engagements?
So that's a very important question, because of course at the national level you can promote more sustainable plastic products and sustainable consumption, and you can impose rules and regulations. But a lot of the results depends on the action taken by individuals in homes, schools, in local businesses, in municipalities, etc., in communities. And so stakeholder involvement is a very crucial part of this, core component of the projects, therefore. So best practices in this regard, I think, is important to exchange and share. So as an example, I would like to revert to the CSE project again on waste management and circular economy. They're working on a forum of cities, which has a forum of cities that segregate, is the name of the forum. And they have provided capacity building to 342 Indian cities in the network, helping them to perform better and implement better solutions. They've also supported something called the Zero Waste School Campus Initiative, where thousands of teachers and tens of thousands of students have participated in an annual audit on waste management, both in schools and in workplaces. And so these are some, I think, very impressive initiatives that shows how you can approach wide-ranging community outreach. As far as the Norwegian experience is concerned, we have had some decades of experience with people contributing to the waste management efforts, each from their own home. For instance, Norway's return schemes for bottles and beverage containers have produced such results that 91% of plastic bottles that were put on the market in 2020 were recycled through the depositing return system. And so this system wouldn't work without everyone contributing from their place. It depends on the follow-up to consumers and families and local associations to collect these bottles and deposit them for a quite very small refund, but there is a refund, and it ensures that that they are collected. Another example for Norway is that the Norwegian retailers have an environment fund, where a fee is charged for almost 90% of plastic carrier bags that people get in the stores. And so this solution was suggested by the industry itself. The funds are earmarked for environmental measures to reduce plastic waste. So far, they have distributed millions and millions of Norwegian kroner to a lot of different projects, and also one of the projects actually here in India. Currently with pilots in several Indian localities focusing on collection and baling plastic waste in several local communities. So thereby closing a gap in the value chain of plastic waste, recycling and handling, and also as a very important part of it, providing opportunities for increased income and social upward mobility for local stakeholders and integration into the formal economy for waste pickers, etc. So that is, I think, a very interesting example of how the Norwegian model provides funding for the Indian model, and so they're very different, but there's definitely, we're trying to make the most out of this cooperative setting.
So I think that sounds exciting, but this leads me to another question basically. So as we see that there's this nation, like a foreign country, coming up and doing all these projects with communities in another nation. So I just want to know, like, what role do policy frameworks play in such success of the Norwegian and Indian partnerships in all these projects that you have been mentioning with respect to the communities? Are there specific policies or agreements that have facilitated or in collaborations?
Well, I would say that definitely the existing international policy frameworks are providing guidance and are also platforms that a lot of the work is based on, such as plastic waste amendments under the Basel Convention, which regulate the transboundary movement of plastic waste, and Rotterdam and the Stockholm Conventions, which prove to contribute to the effective implementation of all these activities. But I think that the most important priority for Norway at the moment is that a new and ambitious global plastic treaty would be required to really be able to face this problem in a global way. And so the final negotiations on the treaty are taking place in Busan in a few weeks' time, as we know. And it's a crucial crossroads for this work. So what we hear from science is that the treaty needs to address the following 5 outcomes to be productive in ending plastic pollution. Plastic production and consumption cannot exceed sustainable levels, and the safe circularity of plastic products must be maximized. The end-of-life management of plastic waste must be environmentally sound. Emissions and releases of plastic should be minimized. And equally ambitious means of implementations must be developed or given by them. So, as Norway sees it, the plastic treaty may help level the playing field for businesses globally, both in countries such as India and in Norway. And a host of ambitious companies are already calling for clear goals. So we think that a plastic treaty could help develop business sustainably worldwide. In any case, with the treaty comes the need for national follow-up, national action plans, monitoring, and reporting, all of which depends upon a unified awareness and approach in the country, which is at the national level but also trickles down to the local level. So that's where we hope that the Norwegian Union Plastic Corporation will have challenges to work on in the years to come when the treaty is ready.
Like with the last word that you mentioned, like evaluation, monitoring, and being an economics student, so I have another question. I wonder basically, like, how is the impact of this collaboration being measured? What about projects that are being going on? What metrics are being used to assess the effectiveness of initiatives aimed at reducing marine pollution and promoting sustainable development?
Yes, so that's the question that can be answered a lot of ways, because, well, all of the activities we have, of course, do have a reporting and evaluation scheme, being the cooperation projects that they are. But it's, for some of them, it's a little too early to sort of make the final judgment, but we are at the moment seeing some of the good results that we are expecting. But I would like to pull back a bit and see it from a global angle, because results from the Norwegian Development Program globally have been evaluated by NORAD, the Norwegian Development Agency. And the latest report from this year, Making Waves Plastic Free, looks at 8 different categories. It looks at whether the projects are including plastic waste management and strengthening the informal recycling sector, whether we are joining forces for a global agreement to end plastic pollution, whether we are fighting illegal trade in waste, whether we are tackling marine litter from fishing and shipping, mobilizing the private sector, reducing plastic through upstream circular solutions, cleaning up and increasing knowledge. So that's a lot of things they are looking at, but I will go into some examples from the Indian side and the Indian collaboration. The first example, improving plastic waste management and strengthening the informal recycling sector. Of course, the informal recycling sector is globally very huge, and it's estimated to account for 58% of global plastic waste collection and recycling. And so the informal waste pickers have an indisputable role in preventing plastic pollution, but they face a range of challenges, not all related to pollution, right? Unsafe and unhealthy working conditions, low irregular incomes, social exclusion, and lack of recognition. So it's vital to ensure that waste pickers have a seat at the table in efforts to end plastic pollution. One example of it's not from India though, but one example of efforts to support and include informal sectors through the work of the NGO Tier Fund, which is supported through the Norwegian Embassy program. Along with the International Alliance of Waste Pickers, Tier Fund has contributed to a section of the draft treaty text devoted to a just transition. So it references clearly waste pickers as well as ensuring that their interests are reflected. In sections on extended producer responsibility, waste management, finance, and the treaty principles, etc. So all of this we think will be very relevant for India, where the informal sector is so important in the plastic pollution question. So the second example is tackling marine litter from fishing and shipping. Of course, a significant amount of marine plastic litter comes from sea-based activities. When it doesn't come from onshore, it comes from sea-based activities, of course, but fishing is a very large part of this, along with aquaculture and shipping. And so marine litter from sea-based sources, for instance, ghost fishing equipment, causes significant harm to marine life. So in 2020, together with the IMO and the FAO, Norway launched the Global Litter Partnership. It's designed to prevent and reduce marine plastic litter from the maritime and fisheries sectors in 30 developing countries as the first global project to address this. And the first collaboration between IMO and FAO on this. And the partnership seeks to address the fact that many countries have not integrated these frameworks on a national level. And implementation and enforcement are key challenges. So therefore, the project supports legal, institutional, and policy reforms in the partner countries. Increasing capacity of port state control, and raising awareness within fisheries and shipping. So, and developing national action plans. So the interesting thing on the Indian side here is that India is one of the lead partner countries in this. And some preliminary steps have been taken since 2020, but actually this month, on November 21st, the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy will be launching Global Litter in India in an event celebrating World Fisheries Day with the Norwegian representation. So I think it's a cause for celebration. Yes. So it's I think that's a very important day, and I think that that project will be very exciting to follow. And so the third example is for cleaning up, and we have spoken about the AfroSAF Foundation. And just a little bit more on that. Some of the outcomes of this are extremely impressive. Within the pre-litter stage, leading to a reduction of single-use plastics, we have 2 million pieces reduced by training women and girls to use silicone cups. 4 million pieces reduced by supplying vegetables without packaging, and 28 million pieces reduced by supplying groceries without packaging. In the litter stage, 57 million pieces, or 400 tons of plastic waste, have been sent for recycling. And in the post-litter stage, which actually is cleaning of plastic waste, 120 million kilos have been picked up, including from beaches, mangroves, by boats in the ocean, from the river Miti, and from Swansea.
I look forward to completing by 2030.
And this brings me to the last question for today's podcast series. And Mr. Andreas, I would like to ask this question to you basically. So, what can other countries can learn from Norwegian Indian partnership regarding effective collaboration on ocean issues, basically, and how can these lessons be applied to global efforts in marine conservation?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to mention that many of the projects are engaged both domestically and abroad, outside of their core focus areas or the specific regions where they are taking place. Take CEC as an example, where they have engaged both domestically and abroad, including Africa and other Asian countries, in various policy formulation processes based on experiences from the project. And also taking part in the plastic treaty negotiation processes. So I think it's happening already, and this is actually a core part of the approach that Norway wants to see in collaborative projects. We want to see openness and sharing, and allowing good ideas and solutions to reach as far as possible. This is why we do not prefer proprietary solutions and research. We like our partners to engage across borders and being transparent about good solutions, whether they are sector borders, state borders, national borders, or across the oceans. So I think the Norway-India cooperation can incorporate lessons from other countries that also are working on this, and vice versa. The Norwegian development program to combat marine litter exists in many different countries: India, China, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Indonesia, small island states in the Pacific and the Caribbean, and along the African coast. So there are so many lessons to be learned, gathering as a body of knowledge from countries trying to make an effort within plastic pollution. No single country can solve it alone. And Norway has promoted the need for stronger global obligations for a long time now. I think we owe it to future generations to take urgent actions to solve the problem. That's why we need this year to be the year when the world agrees on an ambitious new treaty. But significant progress has been made in the last 5 years, and the momentum will hopefully build further from here in the way of improved plastic waste management, strengthening the informal recycling sector, building capacity in global negotiation, engaging the private sector, and supporting innovative small and medium-sized businesses within this field. So, to be sure, major investments are still needed. But to continue moving ahead, we will need sustainable solutions for collecting and managing plastic waste in partner countries. So these solutions will need implementations in countries around the world, and we will continue to make that a priority. So by encouraging new, effective, and innovative ideas, the future for plastics can realistically, we think, include turning the plastic tap off. And
developments which are taking place at different levels are both regional and international, and also the head where the collaboration is taking place in India. I'm looking ahead. What do you think are the long-term goals of the Norwegian-Indian collaboration on oceans? And also, how do you envision that these efforts evolving over the next decade?
Thank you very much for the question. I think I will want to revert to the Norwegian government's India strategy, actually, because that is where all of our work is currently rooted. It has oceans as one of its 5 core priorities, and the timeline of that strategy is 2030. And it's not a coincidence that we're targeting 2030 for these goals specifically, because 2030 is also the year by which Norway and India have committed to reach important targets in range of important multilateral initiatives and global commitments.
Yes.
So, of course, the first one is that we've committed to ensure we reach the Sustainable Development Goals, including Goal 14 on life underwater.
And 13.
Yes, and the goal sets out to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. So all of this, what we've been talking about, contributes to that. But in addition to the SDG agenda, we also collaborate on the UNESCO's Ocean Decade Goals. They also run until 2030. Norway and India are, as we've heard, also collaborating in direction of all of these goals, some of which are to develop ocean science solutions, to identify and reduce pollution, protect and restore ecosystems, to sustainably feed the global population, and to develop scientific knowledge and partnerships. So I think the examples that we've been touching upon in this podcast illustrate how we systematically work in line with these Ocean Decade Goals also. In addition, both India and Norway share the same global goals, like protecting 30% of ocean space before 2030, which we agreed to in 2022 at the COP15 of the Convention on Biological Diversity. So that's very positive. And in the end, last year we also had a very positive development, the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, or the BBNJ agreement, which both Norway and India now have signed. And this agreement will facilitate better ocean management, better ocean health, and will be vitally important for all of the countries to safeguard their marine resources in the best possible way. So that's also for the national ones. But this agreement will promote the equitable sharing of all of the benefits arising from the use of marine genetic resources that also lay beyond the national jurisdiction. So I think this is a very good step forward. And one important stock taking for all of these long-term goals will be the UN Oceans Conference in June next year, where we will hope to also showcase some of the work that has been done in the India-Norway Ocean Dialogue. And I believe that overall these are some crucial long-term goals that the Ocean Dialogue all contribute to in a substantial way. So you were asking about what comes next in the next decade, and I know that our ocean researchers that we work closely with are already working on describing the actions and necessary political decisions that will be needed after 2030 also. So I therefore envisage the India-Norway collaboration to converge with, let's say, the researchers' advice on what we will need to focus on in the next decade as we look also beyond 2030.
These are definitely very positive developments, and thank you for comprehensively summing up all the commitments and also the goals that India and Norway look forward to completing by 2030.
And this brings me to the last question for today's podcast series. And Mr. Andreas, I would like to ask this question to you basically. So, what can other countries can learn from Norwegian Indian partnership regarding effective collaboration on ocean issues, basically, and how can these lessons be applied to global efforts in marine conservation?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to mention that many of the projects are engaged both domestically and abroad, outside of their core focus areas or the specific regions where they are taking place. Take CC as an example, where they have engaged both domestically and abroad, including Africa and other Asian countries, in various policy formulation processes based on experiences from the project, and also taking part in the plastic treaty negotiation processes. So I think it's happening already, and this is actually a core part of the approach that Norway wants to see in collaborative projects. We want to see openness and sharing and allowing good ideas and solutions to reach as far as possible. This is why we do not prefer proprietary solutions and research. We like our partners to engage across borders and being transparent about good solutions, whether they are sector borders, state borders, national borders, or across the oceans. So I think the Norway-India cooperation can incorporate lessons from other countries that also are working on this, and vice versa. The Norwegian Development Program to combat marine litter exists in many different countries: India, China, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Indonesia, small island states in the Pacific and the Caribbean, and along the African coast. So there are so many lessons to be learned, gathering as a body of knowledge from countries trying to make an effort for the plastic pollution. No single country can solve it alone. And Norway has promoted the need for stronger global obligations for a long time now. I think we owe it to future generations to take urgent actions to solve the problem. That's why we need this year to be the year when the world agrees on an ambitious new treaty. But significant progress has been made in the last 5 years, and the momentum will hopefully build further from here in the way of improved plastic waste management, strengthening the informal recycling sector, building capacity in global negotiation, engaging the private sector, and supporting innovative small and medium-sized businesses within this field. So, to be sure, major investments are still needed. But to continue moving ahead, we will need sustainable solutions for collecting and managing plastic waste in partner countries. So these solutions will need implementations in countries around the world, and we will continue to make that a priority. So by encouraging new, effective, and innovative ideas, the future for plastics can realistically, we think, include turning the plastic tap off. And we have seen impressive actions around the world. And the Norway-India collaboration represents only a fraction of this. But from cleaning up to turning off the tap, work remains to be done, and we believe India and Norway can lead the way. So many thanks for having us and all of these great questions, for allowing us to
Thank you.
shed light
So
on the dialogue.
I'm sure that I stand that this is going to be the last question, but this is not the last question from my side. Maybe I just want you to, like, to the viewers, to the climate cadets who are there, the part of the organization and others who are viewing us. Do you have any message for all of us, the youth of the globe right now who is present? Like, what you want to say about oceans and the climate? What one message or one single line you would like to just give them?
Well, a single line is maybe difficult, but there is always hope. I think that it's sometimes since I was a youth myself, but when I was deeply engaged in these issues.
Yes.
And then I started working within them, and my career has spanned almost 20 years now. But when you start working on these issues and engaging in them, you experience a lot of setbacks.
Yes.
And some of them are great, like some, for instance, climate COPs, which end in catastrophe, right? And where it's no progress at all. But I think the arc of history bends towards sustainability.
Yes.
And I think there will be setbacks. But one older colleague of mine, when I started my career, actually started in an NGO, working on environmental issues. He was very old, but he said that this will be a frustrating time because nobody will listen to you. Your points will go ignored by authorities and by businesses. But you give it 20 years, and everybody will agree with what you were saying at the time, because these insights are real and they will impact. And so actually that thing happened sooner than I thought. Because with the Paris Agreement, I thought that was an amazing leap forward, because it meant that all sectors agreed that this problem was of the utmost importance. So 10 years actually was all it took. And then it's back and forward, but I think we are building stone by stone towards a sustainable outcome. And stay engaged for all youth, because the solutions come from the youth and the engagement does. And I have children, and I know that they are some of the best negotiators I know. So you can make an impact. Yes.
With whom we're doing that. Philippa, what you would like to say?
No, I think Andreas touched upon a lot of critical aspects as to how to move forward. And actually, I want to revert to what you were saying about listening, that nobody is listening. But actually, I think that's the core, that we need to listen to everyone in finding solutions to go forward. And I mean, that's why we also need to make our voices heard across the board. And it starts, of course, with engaging in those issues and making our opinions heard about it. And that comes from what you were saying, from being a student until you go into various sectors and really working for the good cause and listening to everyone around, because concerns are real, but the solutions are inevitably bent towards sustainability. So I think that was a very well way to wrap up, what we're all working for here in the section.
So I believe Philippa's message is pretty much clear to all of you. Just listen, and you're so far viewing this video, that means you have heard a lot and you learned a lot, basically. So
I also think that was a very impactful message for both the climate cadets and the youth of the globe, and we are going to be engaged. We will keep doing what we are doing for the betterment of the world and the globe, and of course for sustainability reasons. We would then like to thank both Mr. Andreas and Ms. Philippa, as well as the Embassy of Norway, for providing us this wonderful platform for discussing the ocean dialogue, as well as this crucial collaboration between Norway and India, and look forward to having many more fruitful conversations in the future. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for viewing, everyone.